Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Tatiana Rice, and I am the founder and CEO of BlkArthouse, which is a social enterprise dedicated to Black artists and to increasing access and representation of Black art on the global art market. So we host these educational seminars as a way to invest in our artist community and make sure that our artist community is moving forward and being educated. If you have your mic on, please turn it off so we don't have background noise. Super appreciate that. Thank you so much. So today we are talking about selling on the Black market. So for those of you who don't know, the Black market is our multi-vendor marketplace where Black artists are able to create a profile and upload their artwork and manage their orders. So it is the same basically as if you were to work with Saatchi Art or Artsy or any of those other art platforms, even Etsy or those kind of places where you are the seller, you are in control of things. We are really just the tool providing you the platform to be able to do so. So I'll just go a little bit through about what we're going to be talking about today. So first, I'm going to give just a little bit of an overview about myself, BlkArthouse, and the Black market. Then I'm going to walk through step by step on how you create a profile and do everything on the Black market. And then we'll talk through some tips and advice. And as I said in the beginning of the meeting here, this is specifically tailored to BlkArthouse and the Black market. But a lot of the advice that I'll be giving is equally transferable to other areas that you might be selling your artwork online through. So whether you're selling your artwork also through Instagram, through your own website, or through Artsy or any of the other art platforms, this will be equally applicable. But a lot of the sign-up process and things like that that I'm going to be walking through is specific to the Black market. So I don't know why the photos aren't showing up. That's strange. But unfortunately, that is the way that it rolls. So who am I? My name is Tatiana Rice. I am an amateur Black art collector, and I am an attorney at law. So I started BlkArthouse back a couple years. I mean, the idea for BlkArthouse, I should say, started a couple of years ago. I wanted to start collecting art by Black artists, and I quickly recognized how underrepresented Black artists were. I didn't have any kind of formal art background, so I was largely turning to the internet to try to find what I was looking for. And as many consumers and people ended up getting sucked into the hole of Instagram, which I just thought that was crazy that there wasn't a central platform and community for Black artists to be able to sell their artwork online and connect with consumers in a more meaningful way than just selling your artwork through Instagram or working through these larger platforms. So fast forward to the murder of George Floyd and the demand for Black artists and Black art skyrockets. And a lot more people are turning to me and others and trying to ask, okay, where do I find art by Black artists? Where can I follow them? Things like that. And there still was a notable absence of any kind of actual platform or community to be able to turn these people to. So the more that I started talking to artists, because I think that, the first step in trying to tackle any issues, specifically as it relates to art, is of course talking to the artist. And of course, like many of you probably know how misrepresented and unfortunate it can be to be a Black artist. And I heard a lot of these stories about galleries not necessarily having the artist's best interests at heart and how they felt like they lacked a genuine community and networks and support and education. So basically we started building from the ground up, figuring out how we can build a community of Black artists working together and how we can increase the amount of access between artists and these consumers who are looking for Black art and Black artists, because as we all know, Black culture is dope and we're amazingly talented, and there is no reason that we are so underrepresented. So we launched the Black market actually just earlier this year, which is wild to think about, in February. And like I said, it's our multi-vendor marketplace for Black artists to be able to feature and sell their artwork online. So it's available at BlkArtmarket.com. And so Moving forward, just to give you a little bit of an idea of what the Black market is. So it is a curated collection. So this is a collection of art by our community of Black artists. The collection is kind of changed, and new artwork is approved once a month around the third Friday by the BlkArthouse team. So what this means is that artists will submit their artwork to be featured in the next collection, and then we will, around the third Friday of the month, start approving artwork to be featured in the most recent collection. Um, our business model is quite different than most art institutions, and it is specifically for that reason of empowering Black artists. So our artists take most of the profits, about 80% of their profits, and they take 100% of the shipping fees that the buyers are purchasing through the Black market. And then artists control their destiny, meaning the Black market is a tool for you to use to be able to sell your artwork online. So you are the one who is deciding what your prices are, what your dimensions are. You're also controlling your sales and fulfillment, meaning if somebody buys your artwork, you're handling the shipping, you're doing all that. Part of that is just, again, this platform is meant for you, and it's not meant for us to govern how you are doing your sales and how you are doing your careers. So and just moving forward, if anybody has any questions while I am giving the presentation, don't hesitate to raise your hand or put a question in the chat. I super appreciate it. I will make sure to try to hit all the questions as I go along. All right. So if you are going to, it really bothers me that the artwork isn't on here. If there's one thing that I hope that you will take away from today, it is to always engage your audience. And what I really mean by that is that selling your artwork is itself an art. You need to be telling your story. You need to be telling the story of your artwork. You can't just put something out there and expect for it to get sold. You need to be selling it yourself. So I'll talk a little bit more about this as we go step by step. But the largest mistakes that I see artists make is just putting one photo of their artwork up and not having much of a description. The artists that I do see succeed are ones that are connecting with their audiences. And what I mean by this is they're telling their story of who they are, where are they from, what inspires them to create art, what inspires them to create this specific art piece. You also need to think about it if you're in the buyer's shoes, right? So if we're an artist, we probably all appreciate art. Would you buy a piece that you know nothing about, and you know nothing about the artist, and you only see one photo, you don't engage with it? Probably not. I know that I don't, as a amateur art collector myself. So keeping that in mind is always to engage with your audience. I know it's a tedious task to really have to go through, and it may take a long time, but that is how you succeed in selling your artwork online. Okay, so this is, I can't believe that this isn't showing the photos. I'm just gonna have to do it like this because I think a lot of this is, you need to see it to be able to see the steps that I'm taking. So I apologize, brief indulgence as I try to reboot here and try this again. There it is. Okay, let's screen share and try this again. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Everybody sees all the photos? Give me a thumbs up if you do. Cool. All right, so the first step with working with BlkArthouse and creating your profile here is you create your profile. So on the BlkArthouse site, all you need to do is go to our general home page, which is, I'm going to put it in the chat here. Send chat to everybody. BlkArthouse.com. When you're on BlkArthouse.com, go to the Black Artist tab. That will take you to a page that is specifically meant for you. And there is a place where it says log in to the Black market. You go there and you'll be presented with this screen. It's also available on the BlkArthouse site if you go to the portion in the BlkArthouse tab that says how to start selling. There's a complete guide actually with what I'm gonna walk through step by step if you ever need any more questions or anything like that. That is, I'm gonna put this in the chat as well, blkarthouse.com/how to start selling. So you're gonna come to this page, and what you're gonna do is, of course, you're gonna hit the Join Now button. So you're gonna create your account just like you would with anything else. You'll create your seller name, you'll put in your email, and then password, dimensions. So just a little bit of context, you don't actually really need to put anything in the dimensions, even though there is a star there. Just put NA or 0. Keeping in mind that BlkArthouse is an emerging startup for Black artists. We don't have all the technical capabilities. I myself am a non-technical founder, so we are still working through some things, to be quite frank. And so not everything you're going to need to be putting in every single field, and we'll be working on that, but just keep that in mind, that this dimensions portion doesn't really matter, and it's not actually displayed on the front end when you are creating your profile. So once you do create your profile, you'll get this pop-up that says an account has been created and that BlkArthouse needs to approve it. And the reason that we do this is because we are continually trying to make sure that this is a protected community of Black artists. So you'll see this as I walk through, but every single person who creates a profile on the Black market needs to upload a profile photo. And the reason that we do that is to ensure that everybody on there is Black and, you know, is a part of, identifies with our community. So once your account is created, make sure that you are going back to the dashboard and going to the profile tab, which is here, because this is where you're actually going to start putting in your account details. So you see this account details page. It's just a little bit more in depth of the last page that I showed you. So this is just some example that you can put in here. So you'll put your email. There is a difference between your seller name and your shop name. So keep this in mind. Your seller name is going to be your actual name. So your name as an artist, whether that's Tatiana Rice, whether that is Melissa Suggs, whether that is DeAndre Clark. You put your name there. If you have a separate name for your art shop or for yourself as an artist, that is where you're going to put that. And the reason that there are two different fields is because it shows up differently, but your seller shop name is what is actually demonstrated. And the next slide will show you where that is, but I just want you to keep that in mind right now. You also need to include your store address, city, country, and that could just be your home base, and that's fine. A lot of the reason that you need to include that address and city information is not for us to have, but for the algorithm to be able to try to figure out how much shipping is going to cost from your location to the buyer's location. So this is an example of what your profile would look like on the Black market. So like I said, here you have your actual store name up here, but your owner, which is you, your name would be right here. So your description that you give is going to be right here, and then all your artwork is below. Again, this is very similar to a lot of other art platforms that you probably already use. But when you are in the Black market, let's say you're just looking at the photography that the Black market affords, it will only just show your artwork page. Somebody has to specifically click into your profile to see all of this. So back on the create your profile page. So like we just did this part, and now moving down, we're doing this part. So the next thing that you're gonna do is the short store description. And that is what's actually going to be shown on your profile. So going back here, you see this part. This is your short store description. These other places I've put X's in because, again, they don't really matter. You can include things in them, and it might prompt you to include something there. but it is not going to be shown on the user interface. So like anybody who's buying through the black market is not going
How
to
was your
actually
day?
see it. Oh, I'm going to mute you, Kayla, because I think you just came in. Welcome. Again, like I said, if anybody has any questions as I'm walking through, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to keep droning on and keep chucking. So like I said, the short store description goes right here. And this actually comes to my very first piece of advice, which I touched on a little bit earlier, which is tell your story. Really make sure that you are connecting with your audiences and with your buyers, because they want to know who you are. I do this all the time, I promise you, and I know other buyers do it as well. They don't just look at your artwork. They're looking at your profile. A lot of times they might even go to your Instagram to see who you are, whether this is something that, like, if they're a conscious consumer, really want to be specifically supporting you. So some of the best profiles that I've seen are ones that tell a story, one that says, who are you? Where are you from? What is your style of artwork, right? So do you do a lot of impressionism work? Do you do a lot of portraits? Do you do a lot of sketches? What do you draw that inspiration from? And do you focus on anything in particular? So do you like to focus on Black women because you think Black women are the essence of the earth, because they are? You know, anything like that. And then, of course, what inspires you to create? People love to hear that story. Another actually seminar that we're planning on doing is how to pitch yourself as an artist, because like I said, part of selling your artwork is selling yourself, and you do, to a certain portion, do need to pitch it, whether you like that or not. It is kind of the fact of life. So thinking about what your pitch is, maybe looking at other artists and what their profiles and what their pitches are might help you create your own. And so kind of going back to the profile page as we're walking down, again, the last thing that's in here is going to say dimensions. Again, you don't need to put anything there, as well as store banner image, and you don't need to put anything there. But big, big, big thing that I cannot emphasize enough is you need a profile photo. So if you just joined, I'm going to say this again, we will not approve your profile if you do not include a profile photo. The reason that we do this is because we are trying to ensure that this remains a Black artist community. A profile photo allows us to verify that you identify as a Black person. So far, we haven't had any issues with that. Maybe we do in the future, but right now, we need you to include a profile photo so we are able to verify that fact. All right, so after that, it's kind of in our hands to be able to approve your profile. The other thing that you can do while you're waiting for us to approve your profile is to include your payment method. So you have your dashboard up here. Oh, I am going to mute you because I can hear you. Sorry about that. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to put them in the chat or anything. Your dashboard looks a little something like this. You go to your profile page and it'll say payment details. So there's a couple different ways that you can do your payments, meaning how are we paying you if your artwork is sold. The two ones that most people do are either PayPal or internet banking. I have the internet banking, like just a screenshot here that you can see. We do prefer PayPal because it's just a lot easier to do, and there's usually less fees associated. But if you don't have PayPal, that's fine, and just as long as you do have some kind of bank where you're able to include like your routing number, your account number, things like that, because that allows us to be able to send that payment information out. And if you haven't read our terms of service, which maybe you haven't, but I recommend you do, we do not issue payments until you include the tracking information into the system. And that might be a little bit different from other entities, but that's because we want to ensure that we are preventing fraud and ensuring that our artists are shipping the artwork out, because we are doing such a hands-off approach. So also keep that in mind, that your payment might not come right away until you do ship the artwork out and you have that tracking information. If there is a financial burden, and you really need the money to be able to ship the artwork out, I highly recommend you just email me directly, Tatiana Rice at BlkArthouse.com, and we can figure something out. I've done that with a couple artists, but the default definitely is that we will process the payment after it is shipped. So, like I said, the last thing that you do here is just waiting for our approval. I'm going to hammer home again the fact that we won't approve your profile if you don't have a profile photo. I can't tell you how many people I've had to email and say you need to include a profile photo to be able to start selling with us. And if you want to speed up your approval process at all, so just keep in mind that there is 4 of us on a team here. That is not that many actually, as you might imagine, as compared to the over 200 artists that we work with. So if you have sent your profile out and you want us to approve it so you can really start uploading your artwork, just email hello@BlkArthouse.com and let us know that you have submitted your profile and you are ready to start submitting your art. So working through, keep going. And so you have your art, or you have your profile approved. What is the next step here? So next step is going back to your dashboard and hitting your add product button. So the vendor that we work with is not art specific, so your art is going to be labeled a product in this context. So the same way that you created your artist profile, you are also going to be creating all of these fields for each individual art piece that you would like to submit to BlkArthouse to review, to feature in our collection. So there is going to be normal product, you keep that the same. Your product name, really making sure that it is spelled correctly and you're using the capitalized letters when you need to be using capitalized letters. And then product type, of course, is kind of up to you. Honestly, this isn't really shown or filtered, but if I was to put a product type in, I would put, original on canvas or photography or print. Those are different product types. And then again, description, tell the story of your artwork. You really need to be talking about all the necessary details of what are the dimensions of the artwork, what is the medium of the artwork, what kind of paper did you use if it's a print, and then actually going into the story of it. Why did you create this art piece? What inspired you to create this art piece? I think that's the next slide. Yes, it is. Yeah, so tell the story. So if you were shopping on Amazon, would you buy anything if you didn't know the details of it? Would you buy anything that you didn't know the dimensions of, or you didn't know the medium or the material, or you didn't really know the story? So what does your artwork depict? What are you showing here? What should somebody who loves art see from this art piece? Or maybe you want to keep it a little bit more vague, so it's up for interpretation. Regardless, making sure that you really are thinking about it. Again, I know it's super tedious to be able to really think through what you want to put in this description. But if you are getting frustrated because you're putting a lot of art out there and it's not getting sold, I would bet money it's because you are not telling the story of it and you're not connecting with your audiences. You're not telling them why they should be buying this art piece. You need to really think about how your buyers are people and they want to know why they should buy this art piece. And there's actually another second reason that this is really important, and that is for me and BlkArthouse, we are looking at all of these art pieces and we choose which pieces we promote. We obviously can't be promoting every single art piece that is on our site, even though we want to and we strive to. But the artwork that has good photos and have meaningful descriptions are more likely to be featured in our email campaigns, our paid ads, and our social media. That's because we also want to be making these sales as much as you do. So we are picking the art pieces that we think are most likely to sell. And the ones that we think are most likely to sell are ones that have a good story with them and they have good photos and things like that. So I'm going to take a quick break because I know that I've been talking a lot. So actually, what I want everybody to do right now is I have a art piece on the screen here. This is an art piece actually that has sold twice in the past like 4 days, which is actually really good. So I want people to write in the chat what they think is good about this description, and tell me why you think people purchase this art piece. I will wait for people to just write in the chat. What do you think? What is good about this art piece? And if this is new to you, this is actually a really common practice, which is good to get in the practice of, is art critique, working with other artists and saying what's good about certain pieces or what can be improved. All right, Melissa says it explains the story of the colors and gives a backstory. Yep, totally right. There's a couple other reasons that it's good, so I'm gonna let more people chime in. It describes a cause. Yep. Defines a physical item. That's big. It actually talks about the dimensions. It talks about what this is. Simple nature of it. Yeah. These are all super right. Thank you all for saying, yep. Makes a real word connection, touches your emotions. It could have been reworded to put the terms first, then explain them. I think that's a really good critique. I think it's probably good to really put the dimensions or information first that's really necessary, and then maybe going into the story. But I think you're right. It's relatable, writes about a situation. Yeah, this is exactly it. So yeah, keeping this in mind when you're yourself thinking about perhaps making descriptions, things like that. So once you finish your description, the next box that you're going to see on the site is shipping details. So again, this is super important for a couple of reasons, but most importantly, it allows the algorithm to be able to calculate how much the buyer should be paying for shipping. So if you're entering a weight of 0, that buyer is probably going to pay 0 shipping on this artwork. So making sure you have some kind of estimate as to how much it weighs. Like, you don't need to be exactly precise, but I think it largely is between like 0 to 2 pounds, 2 to 5 pounds, 5 to 10 pounds, something like that. There's different weight units as well, because I know pounds is kind of US centric. I think there's also kilograms and things like that as different units to be using as well. The next box, and I'm sorry, I feel like I'm just droning on, but hopefully this is helpful to you all. The next box on here is going to be pricing details. So the first box that you'll see is the actual price that you're going to include it. And then you could also include something that's the compare at price. So that shows whether your artwork is on sale. So if your artwork is ordinarily $1,500, but you're going to sell it here for $1,000, the homepage will actually show that. And I'm not sure if I actually put a photo on here, but it'll show that this product is, 20% off or something. And buyers like to see sales, to be quite honest. They're like, oh, this piece it's half off or it's 30% off. I need to have it, before it goes back to its regular price. It's the same kind of mentality and psychology that goes into regular sales as well. The next thing on the box is inventory details. So you don't need to worry about the SKU or the barcode, but you should be tracking your inventory specifically, of course, if you are selling an original or if you're selling prints. If you're an original or if you're selling an original, make sure that this quantity is 1. Otherwise, you're going to have, 5 buyers trying to buy the same thing. And then if you're selling prints, making sure you're dictating a quantity so that buyers know how many is available. And again, this actually kind of goes into psychology again, because if a buyer knows that there's only 10 of these art pieces available and if there's 5 left, they might be more likely to buy, as opposed to if you had an unlimited supply. Um, that actually also really goes back into how you are thinking about doing prints, if this is something that you do. Um, Typically, I do generally recommend that you do have a limited number of prints rather than an unlimited amount, because it does have that buyer hype to it. Buyers are more likely to buy something that is limited in quality. They think it's special. Um, and it tends to, kind of dilute your work if you are selling thousands and thousands of, the same art piece. So and one of the other things that's really interesting that you can do is having variant details. So this is more specific if you're selling multiple prints and you're selling multiple sizes of them. So you can add different sizes to here. So you can say option name would be size, for example, and option value you would put in, 4x8, 5x6, all the different options that you want to give your buyers, and that'll show up on the site as well, and allow the buyers to choose which size they want, and then that'll show the corresponding price. Same as like if you were on Amazon and you chose a different color or a different size of something, how Amazon automatically changes the price based on that. It's exactly like that as well. And second to last here is product image, which is almost as important as profile image, but we also will not approve any kind of product that doesn't have an image to it, of course, because we're not going to sell anything to buyers that they can't see. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a second, but definitely recommend including more than one image if you can. Close up, far away, different angles in a frame if you can. Multiple image we definitely see are more likely to have success on the black market. So here I'm going to talk a little bit more about your photos and what kind of photos you should be taking and what is really helpful. Again, these are tips that you should be taking into consideration, not only when you're working with us, but thinking about your Instagram, thinking about your website, thinking about any other art platforms that you're working on. So like I said, photos close up as like your default is really good. So the buyer is able to see exactly what the artwork is. It's not obstructive by any means, but also having different options of having them far away. So the buyer can really think about how big is this, one, and two, what might this look like on my wall, or how might I be able to interact with this? So it's really good to be able to have different contrasts of being close and far away, so the buyer can have a really better idea of what your artwork looks like. Next thing is showing the different angles and texture. This is especially true if you're selling originals or any kind of textured pieces. People really love to see the texture of artwork. I know that I do. So really getting some close-up angles of the texture, because especially since you're selling online, it's hard to get that when you're a buyer if you're not seeing it in person. So trying to capture it as much as you can, and that might mean investing in a nice camera. Or utilizing your iPhone in new ways, but I highly recommend doing it. I know, again, it's something that seems tedious and might be expensive if it means you need to buy a new camera or phone, but I guarantee you it will make a difference if you are able to better capture your artwork. That makes it more realistic to people to buy. Staged photos, I might be in the minority here, but I actually think they're a really helpful way to be able to show your artwork to buyers and have them be able to imagine how the artwork may look on their walls, especially if you're selling prints or anything like that. So one of our artists, Anita Easterwood, does a really good job of this, and it really helps her display her artwork in really beautiful ways. Going back to what I said earlier about BlkArthouse promotions, we're also likely to use these photos in our promotions, and especially in paid ads, because they look really good. So if they're in the paid ads, they're more likely to be connected to your specific product on our site, and we're more likely to feature them in email campaigns, things like that. So again, this might mean investing in software that allows you to stage your photos. I'm sure there are free options out there as well, making sure you're Googling, asking other artists what they might use. maybe even reaching out to Anita Easterwood here if you know her, and asking what she uses, because hers has been some of the best that I've seen so far. And like I said, don't hesitate to hit up the chat if you have any kind of questions. All relevant, not droning. I appreciate that, Rue, by saying that, because I do feel like I'm droning. And yeah, I mean, if anybody has any recommendations for staging photos, put it in the chat, because that would be fantastic for anybody here, including myself. I would love to know, how are you staging your artwork, and what are the different software tools that you're using? And photos with the artist can be. Okay, great to know. Thank you, P. Landrum. I love photos with the artists. I think they're so cool. They're such a good way to actually show the artist's face, and have the buyer actually engage with the artist, see what they look like, see, I don't know, I like that it gives a little bit more of a human aspect to selling yourself and selling your artwork. This is not just a product to you, I imagine. This is something that you pour your soul into. This is something that you think about and you create over lots of time. And so being able to show yourself with your artwork is, I think, really beautiful thing. Again, not only does it, Petunia, oh, thank you. Okay, glad that you're here. Not only does it help you, I think, connect to the buyer, but again, on the BlkArthouse side, we love to see those photos, and we do often use them when we're doing our email campaigns, featuring people on our website, things like that, because it's a really good way to show that, BlkArthouse is dedicated to Black artists, and here are our Black artists. So keeping that in mind as well. And so the last thing that you will have on your artwork submission page is this collections. So the collections is how you are going to dictate what category of art your artwork will be featured in on the website. So there is the original works of art. If you are selling originals, do not hit the newest collection button. That is what we use to be able to curate the new collections, photography and print. So those are your different options. We're also going to start doing artist-specific collections. So as you see on here, there's one that says Harold Smith artwork. This is something that we're kind of beta testing right now as to whether it works and it's a good thing. But if you see a collection here that's unfamiliar to you, I don't recommend clicking on it, because I will unclick it for you if you say like you're gonna put artwork in the Harold Smith artwork collection and you're not Harold Smith. Like, I'm just going to take it out. But definitely use this as a way to be able to categorize your art in different ways. So, and if you see anything funky on there, just ignore it. It's because everybody is saying the same thing that I am creating. Again, I'm non-technical, so I'm figuring all of this out as well. Okay, so it is 7:12. Let's really get into the mistakes and the big advice that I have for you, that you should be able to take things away. So the biggest mistakes that I see from artists make on the black market, and this means either that we don't choose them for our curation, or it means that they just don't sell on the black market. First is, of course, missing key details. I can't tell you actually how many times I have had buyers ask me what the dimensions are on a specific piece of artwork, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. Let me check with the artist. And by the time that I come back to them with the dimensions, they kind of ghost out, right? So a lot of that is, it needs to be quick, it needs to be there. Buyers need to know all the information when they are ready to be making the purchases. Also, going back to the collections page, making sure that you're identifying things correctly. So for example, we have had artists list things as originals when they're really prints, and that obviously is a little bit deceiving to the buyers and they might be disappointed. So really making sure that you're taking time to ensure that everything is correct that you are listing on here, because I might not know all the time whether what you are putting out there is an original or a print. Second thing is no description. I'm sure I've hammered this so much tonight, but I'm going to keep saying it again. make sure that you are investing time and energy into creating a good description for your artwork. So if a buyer doesn't know what they're buying, then they have no incentive to buy your artwork. That's just the plain facts. I've seen, and we honestly still approve artwork that doesn't have a description just because I'm like, wow, this is really beautiful. But that often means it doesn't sell, which is really sad for me because I like to see my artists succeed and do well and sell their damn artwork. So um, really try to make sure that you are including your descriptions in there. Again, try to put yourself in the shoes of a buyer and what a buyer would like to see if you are buying artwork. The next mistake is only one photo. I said this before, I went through that whole thing of the different kinds of photos you can include. Only one photo doesn't really allow the buyer to interact with and engage with your artwork in a really meaningful way. Um, I'll say this isn't always a deterrent. Sometimes people, especially if it's a print or photography, will be like, oh, I just like the design. I don't need to see much more. Sometimes that does work. But I will say you're going to have better success if you do that, especially if you're having artwork that, you know, you can see in a frame or you can see on a white wall. Those are really good ways to show your artwork. And no marketing. So this is something that I want to also hammer home on, is that BlkArthouse and any other institutions or organizations that you're working with is only half of the partnership. So you can't just put your artwork out there and put it into a black hole and basically be like, well, where did it go? Like, why is nobody buying it? You need to be doing the work too, to be able to promote your artwork and tell people where you can buy it. You need to be saying like, hey, my artwork is available on BlkArthouse on the black market. Here's a link. Go check it out. Go buy it. Things like that. Um, Petrinia, you asked about video options. There are video options. It's actually under the same place where you upload your photos. That's a great question. You can include videos. I highly recommend it. That's such a great point. Videos are fantastic. Buyers love them. I will say we did our first virtual exhibition December of last year. And as part of the exhibition, I made sure that every single artist included a video that had them talking about their artwork, what was their inspiration, who are they, things like that. Yeah, buyers love them. We completely sold out that exhibition because, and maybe there's not a direct correlation there, but I think there is. They want to see you engaging. They want to see you talking, really working on that. Yeah, Petrinia is right. Buyers do love them. Rue, same. Buyers love to see videos. So just it literally takes like a minute, 2 minutes for you to get on camera, record it. It doesn't need to be the most high quality. Your photo should be high quality. Your video maybe doesn't need to be as high quality, but try to if you can. Just talking, being normal, being a normal human, kind of like how I'm doing right now, saying, hey, my name is Tatiana Rice. I am an artist. I'm not, but for the purposes of this hypothetical, I am. I'm from Washington, D.C. I create original artwork. I love to focus on Black women because I think Black women are amazing, and I think that there needs to be more empowerment and positive imagery about Black women in the world. You know, just really going into the narrative, trying to connect with them, and talk. And that might mean perhaps doing some pitches in the mirror. I know not everybody loves public speaking or talking into videos, but it is worth it, in my opinion. Like I said, we sold out an exhibition with our artist doing that. So I will place that anecdotal evidence out there into the world. Thanks, Rue. So those are some of the mistakes I've seen. Now here are some of the ways that you can succeed on the black market. Petrinia, I see you asked, where would my direct link be to the shop? So if you go to your dashboard, you should be able to see your own profile if you go to like edit profile. And then at the top right, there should be something that says view my profile. When you view your profile, you can just use that link to be able to include it, on your Instagram or, anything like that. Cool. And if you don't, again, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I usually am pretty responsive, and happy to assist in any kind of way. Like, the thing that is unique about BlkArthouse is we're trying to actually have connections to you all as artists. So we want to make sure that you are succeeding. First thing, meaningful art descriptions. I can't say this enough. I know I've already said it like 4 or 5 times, but I'll say it one more time. Try and have art descriptions that capture people's attention, capture their mind and their heart, and providing all of the necessary details, including multiple photos. Like I said, they want to be able to see how the art looks in real life, how it looks maybe in their home or office, anything like that. Affordable options. So this is actually where I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about BlkArthouse, who our buyers are. So buyers in the black market right now are usually people who are just going into the art game. So these are people who are just starting to look for maybe their first, second, third piece of artwork. We do have seasoned collectors, I will say. So if you're in that different range, don't take that to mean it's a bad thing or that you won't succeed. But I will say, on the average piece of artwork from our website is between $400 and $800. So whether that means you want to have your originals on your website and you want to have the prints on our website, or have everything with us so everybody can see all the different options, that's totally up to you. But I do want you to keep that in mind, and knowing who our audience is right now. That will change over time, of course, but keeping that in mind, that having affordable options can be a good thing, especially if you're doing it in a way that is strategic, like I said before, and keeping limited prints, limited photos, things like that. So the last thing that I'll say here is being consistent. So specifically with BlkArthouse, as I said, our collection updates once a month. So artists that are engaged and are submitting artwork every month are more likely to be featured on the front page, and they're more likely to be featured again and again in our email campaigns. So I think about a month ago, Dante Muse, who's an artist coach, came on here and was talking about how to get people to buy your artwork. And one of the things that he said is abiding by the rule of 7. And I don't know if you guys have heard about that before, but the general theory is that a person needs to engage with you or your artwork 7 times before they actually purchase. So a lot of times the artists that we feature quite a lot are also the artists that are more likely to have more sales, and that is because they are more engaged with us. They do have good photos and they continually upload artwork every month. So our buyers are like, oh, I saw Valencia Washington on here again, like I think this month I'm going to buy something from her because I love her work, she's like one of my favorites. That is something we get pretty common, like so keeping that in mind as well. So we have about 8 minutes left. I do want to open the floor up here because I definitely have been droning on for at least 50 minutes at this point, if not more. Of course, if you have any questions and you want to reach out to me specifically, my email is listed here, our website and the marketplace is listed as well. But I do want to open the floor here. If anybody has any questions, or if you have feedback for me to keep into account, maybe something that you want changed about BlkArthouse or about the black market, now is the time to definitely let me know, because I am all ears and I am here for you. I do see that Rue raised your hand. So Rue, if you want to unmute yourself and ask, go for it.
Hi, good evening. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Blessings. Thank you, Tatiana. This was wonderful. I did have some questions and somewhat, answered as you went along, so that's why I just waited to the end.
Okay.
So one of the questions I had was, can you sell an original canvas and then do limited prints of that canvas?
Yes, you absolutely can. That's a great question. What I would recommend doing is doing 2 different uploads. I know it's a little bit not difficult, but tedious to do. But I would recommend it just because of the collections part of the page where you need to specify where you want it to be featured.
Mm.
So just start with your original, upload that, and then add a different product and add your prints. Especially if you have different sizes, you're able to really put in the variants on the different sizes and then put it in the prints collection. And don't hesitate to also use the photos for each of them, right? So I don't think it's ever a bad thing to have photos of your original in your print options, as long as you're being explicit in your description that right here is for the prints. Like, so your $400 that you're spending here, this is for prints. My original is 1,200, or whatever you price it at.
Okay. Also, ideas for pictures. I loved what you said about taking the pictures close up and far away and in different settings and things like that. One of the reasons I've been hesitant, because I've been watching for a while, and I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
I come to these virtual offerings that you do because, I think, many times we are not humble enough to admit that we just don't know everything. Sometimes you just the artist. I don't know how it get done. I don't know the formula, but I know what I do. So ideas for pictures. I work with wood, so I'm trying to really understand like some ways to get better photos. I work with wood, I work with fabric and different things like that. So a lot of times I take pictures in nature, but seeing like things in the house kind of made me think of how would I stage it in the house. So do you have any ideas for things like that?
Honestly, not really. I think that's like really cool though. I think you're on the right track. I think it would be amazing to be able to feature your more like textured work both outside in like a natural environment as well as inside on just like a regular wall. I like you don't need to go overboard with staging it, I don't think. Just having it on a white wall goes so far. But if you're able to, and you like, let's say I'm a big plant person, so like if you're able to have like plants or something that just makes it look nice on the wall, then definitely feel free to do that. I think it adds a really nice touch.
Okay, and one last thing, if I may.
Yeah.
Like I said, I do work with wood, so some of my pieces, what I've been doing is I've been sitting them on like the little stands and like sitting outside in nature because they are wood pieces. Pictures like that, would you think, because I haven't tried it yet, would you think that even though that is an actual wood piece that someone will be using every day, it could also do well as a print?
Actually, I'm gonna have to ask you to be a little bit more specific. So is it like a sculpture or is it
Um,
a
let me. I'm working on one piece right now. I'll just grab this really quickly. So, like this piece here that I'm working on, it's limited because it comes from a tree I took down on this side of the house. So it's limited. It's ash wood. I
can you
would
put it a
burn.
little closer to the camera?
Yeah,
Sorry, I
I
can't
would
see it
burn.
super well.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, there we go.
I
Oh,
would
nice.
burn. I would burn, and then I encase them sometimes in acrylic, sometimes they stay as is, things like that. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if pictures of those things would do well as a print. I was thinking about putting them in a book, and that's what that's been my plan thus far, but I didn't know how well it might do as a print.
Yeah, that's a good question. I am gonna give you my honest feedback, which is I don't think it would do that well as a print.
Okay.
I have seen people try to do photos of, I would say, not that that's a sculpture, but a little bit more of a physical piece that you
Mm-hmm.
interact with,
Yeah.
and it doesn't do super well, because photos and prints are usually a specific like design that people like.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I would just sell it honestly as an original if you can.
That works for me. Thank you so
Okay.
much. And thank
Yeah.
you for tonight. And thank you for answering my questions.
Yeah. I see that St. Jones asked something in the chat, which is, do you have artists who have become successful through your partnership? I would love to flip the question back to you and ask what you mean of what success is, because success is a lot of different things. We've helped artists in a lot of different ways, including selling their artwork, starting to work with new galleries that they haven't before, getting $10,000 commissions, things like that. But I would love to know what you think success is. Oh, thanks, Heather. I appreciate that. And you can feel free to mute yourself, Sent, if you want to elaborate. Or not. Okay. All right. Does anybody have any more questions that I can answer for you? It can be about BlkArthouse. It can be about selling your artwork online. I'll tell you what you could maybe do for your social media, things like that. Anything that I can answer for you? Pricing would help. Yeah, I think everybody would love pricing, including me. I think my main advice for pricing is really thinking about, there is no formula. Like, I'll say that first and foremost. There is no formula. You need to think about how much you have put into the artwork yourself and where you are in your journey, right? So if you are just starting out, I wouldn't recommend having a $6,000 art piece if you don't have much of a base, or you haven't shown in an exhibition before, things like that. And really just looking around, seeing what people you think are comparable to you, what they're pricing things at. And that's a reason that you can really look around the Black art house, Black market, because it is a lot of emerging Black artists, a lot of artists who either haven't worked in that many exhibitions or have, are brand new and just starting to sell their artwork. So if you can look at some of the other people or artists that are on our site, as well as, how else other people that that hopefully should be helpful to you. Lewis, so this will be the last question here. How do you go about marketing your artwork outside of BlkArthouse, and how does BlkArthouse help those efforts? So artists marketing your artwork outside of BlkArthouse, social media, social media, social media. Like, unfortunately or fortunately, that is the age that we live in. I have seen a lot of artists completely skyrocket their career through effective social media strategies. And that is not to say I am not perfect at social media. We are still learning on how to use social media, but I have literally talked to artists who, during using the right hashtags, being able to do the paid ads effectively. If you haven't watched this YouTube, Malcolm Xavier is an artist from our inaugural cohort. He is a phenomenal social media guru. Watch his seminar on how to effectively use social media to market your artwork, because he'll do a really good job for you and what you're doing. In terms of marketing, of course, BlkArthouse is happy to help in whatever efforts that you have. So let's say if you are, even if you're working with other galleries, like let's say you have an exhibition coming up in Baltimore, and you want to tell people that you have an exhibition coming up in Baltimore, tell us that, like, we love your success. We want to tell our buyers that, like, hey, this artist is on the rise, this artist is showing with this gallery, like, you should buy their artwork. So definitely tell us about what you are doing, and what kind of what marketing that you're doing, because we love to also see it and promote you as well through our email campaigns and everything like that. Do all the work locally, craft fairs. Yeah. If you're used to doing just general, this is a really great point, Rue, actually. If you get connected with like your local organizations, there'll usually be a lot of like art fairs or like art craft fairs where you can just have booths or things. That's another good way to just get your name out there and meet more people. And a really good way, if you want to be really effective, is making sure that you're having like a QR code out on your booth that actually links directly to your profile or links directly to your social media. So people are able to, even if they're only at your booth for 1 second, they're able to scan your QR code and follow you. So the social media guru's name, his name is Malcolm Xavier. So I think on social media / Instagram, he's Malcolm Xavier 7. And then, like I said, on our YouTube, it's like how to sell your artwork or how to use social media to promote your artwork, something like that. But yeah, he's fantastic. So we are 4 minutes over time. Thank you all again so much for attending. I hope you had a lot of value out of this and are able to start working with BlkArthouse in the Black market. Again, if you have any kind of questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm going to put my email in here one more time, just in case there's any more lingering questions. And I will get back to you. Yes, it is Malcolm Xavier. All right. Thank you all so much for attending. Have a good rest of your night. Thank you for joining us at BlkArthouse. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got value. I'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.